Today I would like to look over the concept of binding in Azure, not Azure, in Blazor app. This is a Blazor app, and this is a server-side Razor page. So the way it works is that you have for EditForm. EditForm can have different fields. Each field could have a binding value. The binding value, the way it works is that you get the in the form, one of the attributes is model, and the value is the object against the bindings. So when the system loads, now I have it here, you put a parameter here that is not a parameter, you put a variable in the Razor page, and you put you put the tag here that says that supplied from parameters, and you get and this is how you bind them together. So what I do here is that I have this this attribute here in the class, in the Razor page, which is a class, by the way, and in the uninitialize, I go to the database, I call the command to get the value. I put the value, I update the information here, and once you get the instance here, the instance that comes from the data store or the data source, or here's Azure. Once you get the instance that is the DTO that is filled up with the information, with the data, then since the binding is done here in the form, then these fields are going to be filled up with the information that came from the data, the database, or whatever you want to call it. This is Azure storage. It's not exactly a database, but whatever, doesn't matter where the data came from. So this is how this is filled. Once you then you have to add an attribute and validate submit, and when the user click on submit, this function will be called. So you'll have somewhere, I didn't put it here, but you have somewhere here a button submit, and when you press and submit, my function edit order will be called. And since we say this is this one is supply from parameter, supply parameter from form, the object will be filled with the information you have here. The only thing you have to be careful is that that object has more stuff in it. There's all these attributes. So unfortunately, the attributes will be lost completely when you get the information. When you get the information from the database. So not from the database. The information will be lost when you get the form. When you get the form, because it's only two bindings. There's like 50 attributes in this class. So the other attributes will be null or default value, like string will be empty string, and numbers will be 0, and boolean, I think the default value is false. So some information will be lost. And here what I do is that in the edit form, I call my command to save the order, and in this specific page almost everything will be lost except date received and time retrieved. Now, if you want to know what type of fields you could put in edit form, you could go to the official documentation, and it tells you that you can have a checkbox, input data, input file number, input radio group, input select, input text area. As you see, there's no there's no hidden field, so we're going to be in trouble, because even if you put all the information you want, it could be some information you don't want, and you don't want the user to see. Now if you want the user to see, you could put it as an input text, and you could put it as I'm sorry, if you don't want the user to see, you could put it, if you want this user to see, you could put it as input text, and you could put it read only. This way the field would look like all the other fields, all the other inputs, but when the user clicks on it, he won't be able to modify the data, which I don't like so much, because it might confuse the user. You think he could modify it, but he doesn't modify it. He was going to think is a bug or something. So what you could do, I think it's disabled. You could write disabled, and then it's going to be grayed out or in a different color. So it'll be obvious to the user that this field cannot be modified, but at the same time, the information is shown. Now if you don't want to show it to the user, you could just put an input field and just put a style that says display none, and this will be hidden in the form when the form is going to be rendered and showed to the user. But when the user click on submit, then this information will be sent. The problem that you have, the reason why you would want to do such a thing, to add stuff to the form and not to go to the database, fetch the data, and update only the information that you modified. There's three things actually. First, it's simple, so you don't want to make stuff more complicated than it is. You'd like to keep it as simple as possible. So if you only update the data that has been modified, it's going to be a lot of code. You just take the object that you got, you throw it to the database, and to it could be Entity Framework, it could be Azure, it could be whatever database you're using. So it's less code. And if you decide to get a get from the database and then modify the information and then save it, then you would have made another call to the database. And some places like Azure, you pay by the calls. So you fetch the data, it's one call, so you have a limited amount of calls. Yes, it's not very expensive. It's I don't know, you have a lot of I don't know, thousands of 100,000, I don't know how much it is. You have a lot of calls that you're allowed to do. But if you don't careful about this kind of stuff, you might make a lot of back and forth into the Azure storage, and you might end up paying more money, especially if you have scripts that goes over robots and something that's open to the public, and you have a store that is used by a lot of people, or especially IoT. IoT is the worst, because a human being could go to the server once a day or once a week. IoT will do it every 15 minutes or something like that. And if you have like a lot of people using the devices, and if you have a person that has 3 devices, you're really not it's not going to be funny. So you want to start thinking at the beginning to limit the amount of times you go back and forth to the server, if you go that path. And here what you have is that you have a get, and you don't do a second get when you save the data. The problem is that sometimes you have information like the e-tag that you would like to keep, but you don't want to show it to the user, because the user is going to be confused, because it's very technical. So you could do it this way. It will be sent to the user. It will be in the form. It will be like hidden, because if I display none, but it will be filled up when you call edit here. You'll have order that will have this information filled up.